Good morning, my friends. Today we are talking about noun clauses as subjects. Now, if you remember, for the last couple of lessons, we've been talking about clauses. And in this case, we're going to be talking specifically about clauses acting as nouns. And for the next few lessons, we're going to talk about all the different ways that they can be used in sentences. So, to remind you, a clause is going to have a subject and a predicate, and it's going to either be dependent or independent. And in this case, our noun clauses are all going to be dependent clauses, and they're going to function as a noun in a sentence. So what does that mean? It means that it can be the subject complement, the appositive, a direct object, an indirect object, or an object of a preposition in a sentence. So those 6 components, we'll be talking about those over the next 6 lessons. So let's start with noun clauses acting as the subject of the sentence. This is probably the easiest ones to find. All right. So when noun clauses are acting as the subject of the sentence, it is a necessary part of the sentence because we know a sentence has to have a subject and a predicate. So if a noun clause is being the subject, it has to be there, which feels strange because we don't think of dependent clauses as necessary, but in this case they are. So they cannot be eliminated, otherwise the sentence doesn't make sense. A noun clause, when it's used as a subject, is going to generally, not always, but generally take on the singular form of the verb. So let me give you some examples. The first one, that I was worried, must have been evident from my facial expression. So what must have been evident? Well, that I was worried must have been evident. So that I was worried is the noun clause acting as the subject. Second example, where I am going is my secret. What is my secret? Well, where I am going is my secret. Therefore, where I am going is the noun clause acting as the subject of that sentence. The third example, what she wants goes against the rules. What goes against the rules? Well, what she wants goes against the rules. So what she wants is the noun clause acting as the subject of the sentence. So as you can see, they're not that hard to find because it's the subject of the sentence. It's always going to be coming in front of the main verb of the sentence. It's just a matter of finding it, finding that main verb, as opposed to getting mixed up with the verb that is in the clause. So let's go over some hints on how to find those noun clauses. The first hint that you need to know is noun clauses are generally going to start with an introductory word. So you're going to look for these words to help you find the start of the clause. Because they're acting as the subject, it's going to be easier because it's going to be at the beginning of the sentence. But remember, when you're writing down your answer, it should have one of these introductory words as the first word. If you write down a sentence and it doesn't have one of these words, you're writing something wrong, okay? So make sure that you look for these words and you check your answers to make sure that these introductory words are included. Now, how are you going to set about finding the noun clauses as the subject? Well, first of all, the subject is before the main verb of the sentence, so it's going to be at the beginning. Second, find that introductory word. Use the list that I just gave you, find one of those words, and go from there. Step 3, the clause is going to start at that introductory word. It's going to have its own subject. It's going to have its modifiers and a verb. And then the clause is going to end when you get to the main verb of the sentence. So let's break down these examples. First one, whoever suggested going to the movies was brilliant. Well, where's the main verb of that sentence? Exactly. Whoever suggested going to the movies is the subject of the sentence. Was brilliant. That's the main verb of the sentence. So what are we going to do? We need to find the beginning, find that introductory word. There it is, whoever, and then we go all the way to the main verb. So the noun clause in this sentence is whoever suggested going to the movies. So let's test it. Whoever suggested going to the movies was brilliant. Who was brilliant? Well, Whoever suggested going to the movies was brilliant. So that tells us that that noun clause is acting as the subject. Let's look at the second example. Whether we win the game or not is not important. Where should we divide that between subject and predicate? Where's that main verb? If you said right there, in between not and is, you are correct. So let's find that introductory word. There it is, whether. And our whole noun clause is going to be whether we win the game or not. So let's test this one out as well. Whether we win the game or not is not important. What's not important? Whether we win the game or not. So there you've got it. Those are the easy steps to finding the noun clause as the subject of the sentence. It's going to start with that introductory word. It's going to go until the main verb. Test it out. When you find that main verb, ask yourself the question. What question does it answer? Who or what was doing this action? Let's practice a little bit. So the first one, what goes in our time capsule is very important. So where's that main verb? Where should we divide this between subject and predicate? If you said between capsule and is, you've got it. So now find that introductory word, what, and go until you get to the main verb, what goes in our time capsule, and there you have the noun clause. Let's do the next one. Whoever adds items chooses them for a reason. This one was a little bit harder, so I already divided it up for you. Whoever adds items, what do? They choose them for a reason. The main verb is chooses. So we find that introductory word, and we go to the main verb, so whoever adds items. Next one, why my sister wants to include her phone is unknown to me. Where should we divide that between subject and predicate? If you said between phone and is, you are correct. So now find that introductory word. You should have said why, and we go from why all the way to the main verb. So why my sister wants to include her phone is unknown to me. Perfect. Let's go to the next one. That I will include sheet music for my flute will be no surprise to anyone. Well, where do we divide that up? If you said between flute and will be, you are correct. Find that introductory word, that, and go to the main verb. That I will include sheet music for my flute is the entire noun clause. So let's test this one though. Will be no surprise to anyone. What will be no surprise to anyone? That I will include sheet music for my flute. Now, some of you may ask, do I need that for my flute as part of the phrase? As part of the clause. Absolutely you do, because for my flute is a part of the modifications. It's a modifier, so it is part of that clause. It has to be included, so make sure you go all the way to the main verb. The last example, where we bury the capsule is the tricky part. Where should we divide that up? If you said between capsule and is, you are correct. What's the introductory word? Where, and we go from where all the way to capsule, meeting that main verb. Well, I hope that helps you find noun clauses as the subject of sentences. Please take your time while you are doing your practice session. Make sure that every single answer that you write starts with an introductory word and goes all the way until you meet the verb or verb phrase. Do not include the verb or verb phrase, the main one, when you are writing your answer. Some of you have been going a few words too far when you write your answers. So make sure that when you hit that main verb, you stop. Okay? Have a great day.